you know it's time. IAfootball is back, and we've got you covered with everything from the biggest hits to the biggest runs, from in-game highlights to post-game breakdown.
We are here talking any and all high school football.
From day one all the way to the dome, we've got you covered at IAfootball.
Welcome in, everybody. As you can see, I am in studio, joined by Nick Fox, and it is a Wednesday. It is the perfect alignment for a new Locks and Dogs, and we're getting down to crunch time. I like to think, I said this on, I think, the ranking show. I said, when the sun is set before kickoff, that's when you know the games mean even more. It's starting to get colder, which is not good, but these football games going on this weekend are going to be incredible. We've got a great slate, joined by Nick Fox. Nick, we say it every week. We're getting to the crunch time, and postseason is right around the corner.
Yeah, we got a bunch of games like in the districts, or excuse me, the classes that have the districts. We've got district championships happening this week. Playoff spots are getting taken up. We're quickly coming to the end of the season. Playoffs are going to be here before we know it. We're getting to probably the most exciting part of the regular season.
Absolutely. Well, last week of the regular season for the little classes, they're going to find out if you're top four in your district, you're going to find out who you get to go and play next Friday in the first round of the postseason, I do believe. So that should be a ton of fun. We'll get to our announcements quickly. As you can see today, we got Locks and Dogs. Hit that bell, make an account, turn on post notifications so you don't miss a thing. We got a ton of stuff coming. We're going to have some overlap with some wrestling. So don't worry, this is still the place to catch up with football. But, hey, if you're not an IA Wrestle fan and you're kind of wanting to get into college or high school wrestling, this is the place to be. You think IA Football is big. IA Wrestle is crazy big. So go check out those accounts. That's kind of the first child of the IA sports family. So go check that out. We're going to start getting some wrestling stuff up, but football is not going away anytime soon. Do not worry. All right. I need to go over here. We're going to recap last week. My goodness, people. I put on a heck of a performance, but I had my first lock miss. Cam fell. So, dang it. But 6 dogs, that's the record. That's the best so far this year. Nick had a really good week, 7-0, 4-3. I think you take that every single week. It just so happened where, I don't know, Nick. What do you guys say?
I don't really know what to say. It was just one of those things that at some point you were checking the scores, and I just got text after text like Assumption's winning, Central Lions winning, Beckman's line. I was like, what is happening?
I would say I'm always at my game. I'm always keeping up on the other ranked games that I need to follow for the final scores. And I'm also trying to find my Locks and Dogs to see how they're doing. And yeah, I mean, it was a pretty crazy week, but that just shows how fun Iowa high school football is. And it's only going to get crazier. I thought the dogs were going to get harder as the season went on because the rankings were going to become more narrow, but turns out it's only getting crazier. Right. So that just means that this week is might be even wilder. So I'll take 96 points to Nick's 85 going into week 8. We are going to do double points, I think, for playoff games and stuff. So again, play at home if you want. Put them in the comments. Do what you wish, or drop a dog you think could win that we didn't put. Should be a ton of fun. I will get us going with class. Oh, no, never mind. We got our records here so you can check it out, so you can know what class you got to pay attention to. As you can see, 4A is my best class, and looks like 2A is Nick's best class. If Nick picks against you in 8-man or A, you're probably okay because he has one each. But last week he hit his first A dog.
Yeah,
so,
I broke the streak.
Yep.
Thank you, Dry Center.
He's going to start a run here. But we're getting into class 5A. My lock of the week, going with Sioux City East, who gets Ames. Team we haven't talked too much about. But this is a team that's just quietly putting up good numbers. Cal Jepson at quarterback, the junior. They got the big target in Loudon Grimsley. I've seen his highlights on X. He's putting up crazy numbers every week, putting up crazy catches. They got Miles Wager too. Really solid team. They get Ames this week. I think that should be a sneaky game, Sioux City East and Ames, but expecting the Black Raiders to win and make it 3 in a row in Class 5A as they are hunting for a postseason spot. My dog, I'm going with Waukee Northwest over Ankeny Centennial. Now, I like Ankeny Centennial a ton, don't get me wrong. But I like Waukee Northwest too, and I think this is going to be one of those CIML games, whichever one it feels like it's like this, that just goes to the wire and there's just a few plays from going either way. So I'm going with Waukee Northwest. Like the momentum they got. Mac Heitland is coming off a great week against Ottumwa. I think he only had 1 incompletion and 6 passing touchdowns. He had a great week. We've talked about Waukee Northwest before. I like their edge threats. Jordan Green, Isaiah Oliver. I think we've both gotten a chance to see them, Nick. Really fun playmakers on the edge. The defense is solid and stout. They got guys in the middle that can really cause trouble. And Centennial likes to run the football. So this is going to be a fun kind of clash in that line of scrimmage area. But I like Waukee Northwest as a dog here. A little bit of a wild card, but I'm going with it.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of go the same way with the defensive spot. I'm going with the Johnson Dragons for my lock this week against Urbandale. Ever since their loss against Valley in a 34-24 game, they have been on a 4-game win streak with wins over Ankeny, Waukee, Southeast Polk, and Council Bluffs Lincoln. All of those, nobody scoring more than 7. Their defense has been stellar. I was at that Waukee game. It felt like Johnson was in the backfield just about every single play. They've got a relentless defense. And their offense has been backing them up as well. Their worst offensive game in that 4-game stretch is the 21 points they scored against Waukee. This is just a red-hot team headed into the final stretch of the season, the best time to get hot. Will Nuss is closing in on the 1,000 passing yards mark. And Max Minks has been leading the way on defense for the Dragons. He's got 39 tackles on the year. 2.5 tackles for loss. Urbandale, they're a solid team, but I really like Johnson for this one. Give me the Dragons for my lock. And my dog this week, I'm going with Cedar Rapids Kennedy. This is one of those teams that they've unfortunately had, one of the toughest schedules in the class, in my opinion. They picked up their second win of the season last year against Dubuque Hempstead. And I think they've got a chance again this week against a solid Cedar Falls team. I really like Kennedy's team despite only being 2-5. Like I mentioned, I think they have one of the toughest schedules in the class. And this would be a great win for them, kind of a confidence booster as we head into the last couple weeks. So give me the Cedar Rapids Kennedy Cougars to catch their 3rd win of the season.
Yeah, and I mean, Kennedy, I don't think everything's lost quite yet. 24th in the RPI. They've got a really good schedule that they're dealing with, so that's gonna bode well for them. So they just keep winning. You never know. You can always sneak up and try and snag one of those final spots. I'm not very good at predicting and looking ahead that far, but control what you can control, and you never know what could happen. But yeah, Kennedy and Cedar Falls should be a fun one. Move on to Class 4A, where I'm rolling with North Scott as my lock. I have not picked North Scott yet this year. I will this week. Picked up a big win last week against Clear Creek Amana to kind of help push themselves in that district with Xavier and company. But Chase Smith has had a really good year. I talked about him earlier in the season. 16 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He's got great targets in Cash Bowie and Carson Lage. Both those guys have 7 receiving touchdowns. So he's got some threats on the outside. Again, this is a team that only has losses to Xavier and Western Dubuque, so not bad losses at all. They've got a win over Waverly Shell Rock, which is going to bode well. Clear Creek Amana, a really solid team in that district. So they're going to look to pick up a few more wins, finish as the runner-up in that district unless something crazy happens, and they will be going to the postseason. So give me North Scott and the Lancers to pick up a win against Clinton. And my dog, going with Storm Lake. Now 4A has been my spot, my class that I've hit the most dogs in. So I'm going to go with Storm Lake this week. They got Spencer. They're coming off a win against Denison. And Storm Lake, I really kind of took them because I like how they can throw the football. Charlie Vergston. We've talked about, if you covered or if you followed us during baseball season, Charlie's a really good baseball pitcher. Had a ton of fun following him. 1,800 passing yards, 21 touchdowns. He's been airing it out. He's got 3 different guys with 400-plus yards receiving, so he can spread it out too. They got a bunch of guys that can beat you. David William, Rylan Richardson, and Cameron Boyd. So I'm kind of expecting a shootout here if it goes Storm Lake's way. This is a team that's put up a lot of points in their wins. They have a 50-point game. They put up 34 in a loss, 36 last week, 52 on Sioux City West. So this team's usually scoring a lot of points. So that's what I'm kind of going with here with my Class 4A dog.
All right, my Class 4A lock for this week, I'm going with Waverly Shell Rock. They got the bounce back win last week against Mason City after falling to a very, very good Decorah team the week prior. They're playing Waterloo East this week. I think the Hawkeyes are still one of the best teams in the class. They've proved it against some of the best, including a win 25-6 over what we know to be a really good Western Dubuque team. So I like Waverly Shell Rock this week. Ethan Bibler, a guy that I've talked about before, he's closing in the 1,000-yard rushing mark for himself. He's got 11 rushing touchdowns on the year. And I want to talk about Charlie Kramer here for a second. He's got 40.5 total tackles, 40 tackles for loss, and an interception. So he's getting it done all over the place in the defensive side of the ball for Waverly Shell Rock, who has proved to have a very solid defense. Other than their close game with Clear Lake earlier this year, they've kept everyone under 15. So I like Waverly Shell Rock. I think that they've got a pretty good chance to take the win this week. So give me the Go Hawks for their second win in a row. And my dog for this week, this is going to be, I think, a very good game. Gilbert and Newton. I'm going to take Gilbert in this one. Newton has one of the best quarterbacks in the class. Caden Klein has over 2,000 total yards for himself, 1,000 through the air, and 983 on the ground, and 18 total touchdowns. This guy is a stud. He's been tearing it up through the air and on the ground for Newton. Has been a huge piece in their success this year. But let's not forget about Gilbert. They lost in a 3-point shootout with Bondurant last week. Very close game. But Gilbert has one of the best running backs in the class in Will Hawthorne. He's coming in. He's 44 yards away from reaching the 1,500-yard mark. He has had a stellar season, 21 touchdowns on the year on the ground. It'll be a close game for sure. If the defense can corral Caden Klein, that will be an absolutely huge piece. But here we go. You got to have Will Hawthorne having his best play, his best ability to play in this one. So give me Gilbert to pull off a pretty big upset against Newton.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one, Class 4A, no doubt. Definitely one that I'm looking at going to. I've got a few kind of circled, and I don't know. Maybe we'll put it up to a Twitter poll today or tomorrow. But we'll move on to Class 3A, where I'm going with Solon. Now, Solon, in one of the toughest districts in Class 3A by far. Grinnell, Benton, Williamsburg, they've already played those three, 1-2 in those games. It's kind of looking like Benton and Williamsburg are shaping out to be 1-2 in that district. So Solon needing to pick up wins, needing to be one of those 4 RPI wild card spots. Right now, they're a pretty good spot. They just got to, like I said, control what they can control. They got Fairfield this week, but Solon, a fun team to watch. You got to see them in their win over Mount Vernon, which is boding well for them. Ty Bell, Eddie Johnson, 2 seniors at quarterback and running back leading the way. Maddox Kelly, I had a ton of fun watching him. Huge threat on the edge and on defense. He had 2 picks at the game I was at. He leads this team in tackles with 40 of them. I had a ton of fun watching Solon. Always play physical up front. I'm picking them as my lock this week. And my dog, Nick, actually texted me about this. I think this is really cool. How about Creston? How about the Panthers? Starting 0-4.
Yeah.
And what have they done in district play? Ran the table. 1-point win over Harlan. 2-point win over Atlantic. Last week, they stomped over Knoxville. And here you go. 0-4 Creston. And they do what they got to do. Right now, they're looking good in their district.
District title on the line.
Yeah,
here.
I would say if they can go to Nevada and take down the Cubs, I mean, that's district title, and they're going to be on the 1 line and hosting a playoff game, which is pretty crazy. I think that's what's fun about Iowa high school is district play is so massive. They tested themselves in the non-district Winterset, Lewis Central, Ballard, and Carroll, all really good teams. And here you go at Nevada for what seems like a district title. Creston, a ton of fun to watch last year, a ton of fun to watch this year. The guy to know, Weston Trapp, 1,400 rushing yards, 16 rushing touchdowns. This offense kind of runs through him, and when he goes, they go. So this is going to be a ton of fun. Nevada, a really good team. I had a ton of fun following Nevada as well. But yeah, it's going to be a fun one on the road at Nevada High School Cub Stadium. Give me Creston as my dog and to kind of take over that district.
Yeah, that game could get a little bit spooky up there in Nevada. It'll be a really good game, I think. I think it'll be closer than some people might think. My lock for this week, I am staying on the Benton train this week. They take on South Tama. Like you mentioned, this could be the game that could help solidify them into that top 2 in the district. I really like Benton. They kind of weren't really on my radar until that Solon game. And then they just stomped on Grinnell last week, a really good game. I picked them as my dog for that game. And they took the win 38-7. The Bobcats are here to stay as we head into the playoffs here very shortly. This is honestly just a really well-balanced team. They have a great passing game with Carson Nolan, a junior. He's also been able to run the ball effectively, and their defense has been very good. The most points they've given up all year is against Solon, and it was 20. So very, very good team so far, and I think they'll keep it up this week against South Tama for that one. And my dog for this week, arguably the biggest game in Class 3A. I think this is set in stone, the district title game between these two. Sergeant Bluff Luton and Bishop Heelan. I'm taking the Crusaders in an upset. SBL is not lost yet. They are 7-0, and Bishop Heelan has their one loss against 5A Sioux City East. Cason Thomas, one of the best running backs in Class 3A. He's got 1,200 rushing yards and 20 touchdowns on the ground. And Sergeant Bluff Luton, man, they've been a very formidable opponent for everybody. They shut out Carroll last week in a 21-0 win. And they've got some decent wins, put up a lot of points, 40-plus in every game outside of that Carroll game. But, Bishop Heelan, man, I believe other than that loss to Sioux City East, they've been on a roll. I think they're really hot right now, and I think the Crusaders can do it. So give me Bishop Heelan to take the district in this huge game this week.
Yeah, no doubt. The biggest game in Class 3A might be the biggest game in the entire state going down this week.
Yeah.
Those two have been on a collision course the past few weeks. Both have taken care of Carroll, who's a solid team. So that points to how good that game is going to be. Two teams that control the line of scrimmage and like to run the football. That one's going to be a ton of fun. We're definitely going to have our eyes on that one. And it's another one I'm kind of considering going to. So we'll see about that. We'll move on to Class 2A. Now, before we get going too far, 2A, 1A, A, and 8-man, this is your final week in the regular season. I mean, I'm sure they know that, but for the casual fans watching, this is the final week of the regular season for these teams. So some of these districts have kind of been decided. Some of them, are going down this week. And, again, we're going to find out who the ones and the fours play and the twos and the threes play. But if you're confused about how the playoffs work, we have a video on our YouTube page. Go check that out. It was posted last week. Go check that out. And I try and explain it as simple as possible. So I'm taking North Fayette Valley over Crestwood. It's a team, only one loss in the year, and it's to 3A Independence, who's obviously a really good team in that class. Besides that, they've kind of put the hurting on everyone they've played. At least 30-plus points in all those games outside of week one. Their loss. They didn't play last week. They had a forfeit win over Olween. But here we go. It's a team that's extremely balanced. Declan Hines, really effective through the air. Lincoln Aishelman. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. You're going to have to drop a pronunciation in the comments so I don't butcher that again. 600-plus yards and 11 rushing touchdowns for him. And here you go. North NFV, the Tiger Hawks looking to take some momentum into the postseason. They get Crestwood at home. My dog for the week, I'm going with Unity Christian. A little bit of a wild card here. This is a team that only got 2 wins this year, but they've played an incredibly tough schedule. MOC, Floyd Valley, Ridgeview, West Lyon, Central Lyon, Georgia Little Rock, and Cherokee, Washington. All of their losses and all of those teams extremely quality. And here they go, heading to Western Christian, looking to kind of cause some turmoil in that district and trying to wreak some havoc. Unity Christian, Dylan Bosma, really solid through the air, 1,200 yards passing, 11 touchdowns. He is top target. Looks like his brother Braden Bosma, 400-plus yards for him. And yeah, definitely just kind of going with a wild card. I like this team. I like the athletes they have, and kind of just a tough schedule so far. So I'm looking for them to go out with a win in Week 8 at Western Christian. Give me Unity Christian and the Knights.
My lock for this week, I'm going with Roland Story over Sadell. I picked against Roland Story last week.
Making it up to him.
They said some hurtful things in the comments about me.
We read the comments, guys.
We
Don't
read
worry.
all the comments. I'm just kidding. It's all fun. But I am going with Roland Story this week to get a win over Sadell. I want to talk about Ben Mazik, a sophomore running back. He has got 600 rushing yards and 7 touchdowns. Really a well-balanced running back room for Roland Story. And putting up those numbers as a sophomore on a team like this that's competing for the playoffs starting next week, like Cade said, is going to be really valuable for them, not only this year, but going into the coming years. So that's really exciting for the Norsemen. I think that they can pick up a good win here. 5-2. Their last loss was to Kemper Catholic a few weeks ago. And since then, they've been on a 3-game win streak, including a win over Des Moines Christian, who is a really solid team who they have that common loss against Kemper Catholic, who we know to be one of the best in the class. So give me Roland Story for a win this week. And my dog for this week, a team that I have not talked about. I don't think either of us have really talked about this year as far as I know. The Anamosa Blue Raiders. They have quietly gone 6-1 this season. They take on the Northeast Rebels this week, and they have quite a few really standout performance on both sides of the ball. Vince Deers, a senior quarterback, he's got 1,200 passing yards and 17 touchdowns. Their running back, senior Austin Scranton, he's got over 1,000 rushing yards, and he's got 11 touchdowns on the ground. And Scranton on the other side of the ball, on the defensive side, he's got 11 tackles for loss, including 4 sacks in there. So Anamosa, they have been, like I said, a quiet team that we haven't really talked about. This is kind of their first really big game of the season here right at the end of the season against Northeast, a team that I picked last week as my lock. And I think the Blue Raiders can show us some magic this week against a fairly good Rebels team. So give me Anamosa to pick up the win and go 7-1 on the year.
Yeah, sneaky good game in Class 2A. Really, really good one going down in that district. We'll move on to Class 1A. I got Woodward Granger, who's been a pleasant surprise. 1 loss in the year so far to Pleasantville. This is a team that's going to take home this district title, and it's been on the backs of quarterback Talon Fusen. 1,200 yards passing, 18 passing touchdowns. He leads the team in rushing as well as C.J. Peterson's had a good year rushing the football. Max Dalton, the top target, as well as Kane Mahler Moreno. This is a team. It's really been extremely impressive in their district. Kane also has 13.5 tackles for loss, but you look at their district, this is a team that's kind of put the hurting on everybody. 45-plus points in every single district game so far this year. They've only allowed more than 20 in one game in their district. So here they go. They go to West Central Valley, looking to kind of go into the postseason with some momentum. They're going to be a 1 seed. They're going to be at home facing a 4 seed. Just a matter of who is going to Hawk Stadium at Woodward Granger. So that one should be fun. Give me the Hawks to, again, go into the postseason with some momentum. My dog, give me the Cascade Cougars. This is a big game in their district, going to Beckman Catholic, trying to pick up a little bit of an upset win and sneak into the postseason. I believe they get in with a win. This is a team that has Maquoketa Valley's 1 loss. Cascade beat Maquoketa Valley in week 1, 10-9, and that is the only blemish that the Wildcats have. And as you know, the Wildcats are now making some noise in Class A. So this is a team that's hung with Regina, competed in every game that they've played, coming off a win against Durant. And here they go, going to Beckman Catholic. The guy you need to know that I've had a ton of fun watching, Nathan Shakamo. I apologize if I'm saying that incorrectly. Leads the team in receiving. He's got 3 receiving touchdowns, lead the teams in tackles. He's got 5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks on the year. This dude's a force. Mick Hoffman's been good at quarterback. He leads the team in passing and rushing, or Jackson Green leads the team in rushing. But Mick Hoffman's been a threat both ways. and Cascade's been a fun team to follow. Give me them in a pretty big upset at Beckman Catholic. I'm going to ride with the Cougars.
All right, my lock for this week, I'm going with South Hardin Tigers. They're taking on Columbus Catholic Sailors. South Hardin, another team that I haven't really said a whole lot about, but they've been really, really solid. They will be a formidable team headed into the playoffs. Peyton Welch, the guy to know, junior quarterback. He's got 1,100 passing yards, 17 total touchdowns, and 200 yards rushing as well. So, this class not exactly known for its passing game, but South Hardin, they get Peyton Welch, who's thrown the ball really well for them. Jackson Drury has been a really solid running back for them as well. He is just about to that 900 rushing yard mark with 14 touchdowns on the ground for them. So I like the Tigers this week. Their only loss this year is to Grundy Center, which, for being honest, who doesn't have a loss to Grundy Center? They've been really good. So I like the Tigers. Give me the Tigers to get a win this week. And my dog for this week would be quite the upset if I get this one. The Manson Northwest Webster. Sorry. They're taking on Emmitsburg in the final week of the regular season. Manson's been a really quiet team, 6-1 on the year for them. These are both extremely rush-heavy teams, although Manson does a bit more passing than Emmitsburg does. Obviously, Emmitsburg, a team we've talked a ton about this year. We've raved about them. An elite running back room they have. They are coming in close on the 3,000 rushing yards mark as a team. And like I mentioned, Manson does a little bit more of the distribution. They're not just a run team like the Hawkeyes are. Like I said, this would be a huge upset. Emmitsburg is one of the best in the class, arguably the best. But I'm going to go with the Cougars. This would be a huge upset. And I'm going to go with the Cougars to take on that big game for this week.
Yeah, another district title on the line in that one, Nick. And both those teams looking like they're going to host. I mean, it's just a matter of if you're going to be on the 1 line or the 2 line for that first round game. But a great test for both teams. Manson Northwest Webster, talk about a quiet 6-1. That is a quiet 6-1. They deserve to be talked about. So glad you took them. Moving on to Class A. Haven't taken West Hancock yet this year. I will do that this week. And we are, 7 weeks into the regular season, and they have 169 passing yards. But that should not surprise a ton of people because West Hancock, if you've been following Class A football, you know that they like to run the football, averaging 8.6 yards per carry this season, 2,400 rushing yards. Brady Bixel has been the guy, 900 yards himself, 22 rushing touchdowns for him. West Hancock football, we've covered them the last few years in Class A. This is a team that does not give up much on defense. In fact, only single digits in their last 4 weeks, and now they get to go to Newman Catholic to wrap up the regular season and try and head in to the postseason without a loss in their schedule, and they're going to look to do just that. Give me West Hancock as my lock in Class A. And my dog, going with Bellevue and the Comets. This is a team that just pulled an upset last week, actually, at Starmont. They won that game 40-35. Now, I kind of picked Bellevue, so I could tell you guys about this, and I'm going to get a post up I'm waiting on. Oh, Pounds wanted to be funny on me. Wide receiver, Keenan Kilberg, okay? 20 catches last week. 20. We're going to get a post up, but that puts him, I believe, tied for 5th all time for most receptions in a single game. That is bonkers. You might not see that the rest of this year. But yeah, Bellevue's been solid. Cal Boniface at quarterback, obviously from following him in baseball. Stud pitcher. Jaden Baskin rushing the football has been effective. And then Keenan Kilberg, 64 catches for 750 and 6 touchdowns this year. That is extremely, extremely solid in Class A, and that'll get him, ranking up on our positional rankings list. But give me Bellevue over North Lynn. Should be a fun one. Comets and Lynx in the final week of the regular season at Bellevue.
All right, I'm going to stay on the Tri-Center train for myself. They got me my first dog in Class A, so I appreciate that. And I'm going to take them as a lock this week against Kingsley Pearson. AJ Harder, a guy that I talked about last week, young guy. He's a sophomore. He's got over 1,500 passing yards now, 17 total touchdowns. They're fresh off of that huge win against Woodbury Central. Like I said, had nothing but great things to say about this team last week, and they proved themselves to be an even better team after that win. Woodbury Central, definitely not an easy team to beat. So look out for Tri-Center as we head into the playoffs. Very well-balanced team, really, really good defense, and obviously they've been getting it done on the offensive side of the ball. Their lowest scoring game was that Woodbury Central game with 34, and other than that, upwards of 50 points, 60 points. So the Trojans, really good team. I'm going to stick with them to get me a lock for this week. And my dog for this week, it's going to be a tough one. Starmont going up against Maquoketa Valley that are fresh into the rankings this week. I do want to mention that Maquoketa Valley has a noticeably young team. They have a junior quarterback who's been really good, sophomore running back who's got he's getting close to 1,200 yards rushing, and Eli Doherty, he's got 333 receiving yards. I won't get too much into Maquoketa Valley. I do want to talk about Starmont, who I'm picking as my dogs this week. They have a sophomore wide receiver. He has 5 catches, 176 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So pretty impressive numbers for just 5 catches in this whole entire season. And they've got a pretty solid defender in Avery Vasquez. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Let me know if I'm not. 49.5 tackles, 3 tackles for loss. This will be a tough game for Starmont. Maquoketa Valley has really come out of the woodwork as one of the best in Class A, but I like the Stars. They had a solid year last year. They've put up so far a pretty solid year this year. I think they can top off this season with a huge upset against the Wildcats.
Yeah, you didn't talk about Maquoketa Valley much, so I will, because that just shows how good this team is. And our Class A ranker, if you Maquoketa Valley fans watched the ranking show, we've underrated Maquoketa Valley all year long. I mean, this team hasn't allowed a touchdown since week 1. They allowed their second touchdown just last week against Northland. That's how good this defense has been, and the offense has put up a ton of good numbers. So that's going to be fun. Starmont, Maquoketa Valley, 2 teams. Again, looking to go into the postseason with momentum. Maquoketa Valley has been a fun team to watch, and I think they're getting the ranking that they deserve. They could probably even be a little higher if they can go against the Knicks dog this week and pick up another win going into the postseason. But Maquoketa Valley definitely deserving of some love, even though Nick picked against them. Dang it!
Sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
No, moving on to Class 8-man, final class of this week. Don Bosco. Haven't picked the Dons yet. I will do so now. This is a team that's been extremely impressive. Close week 1 win against Gladbrook Rhinebeck, and since then, this team has won by wide margins, and they've done so on the ground. Kyler Knack's been solid at quarterback. He's throwing it when he needs to. 2 running backs, or 2 guys with 600-plus rushing yards in Kyler Knack and Ty Christensen. Defense has been extremely effective. 18.5 tackles for loss for Kaiser Bovey. Kyler Solis also adds 11.5. So defense for Don Bosco has been lights out. Give me the Dons to pick up another win going into the postseason. And my dog going with Southeast Warren against Bedford. Now, this is one of those matchups where either team is, the winner is going to be on the 2 line and the district loser is going to be on the 3 line. Both pretty safe for the postseason, but it could be a home game kind of on the line depending on how seeding works and how kind of the bracket itself draws out. But Southeast Warren, going with them against Bedford. Both these two kind of got, ran into Lennox, who is a really good team in Class 8-man. Both had pretty big losses to them. But here you go, facing against each other. Cam Sufer, 800-plus yards passing, 9 touchdowns for him. Jameson Ewing leading the way in rushing with 11 touchdowns. A solid dual threat offense in 8-man going against a run-heavy offense in Bedford. Should be a ton of fun. Southeast Warren gets Bedford at home, which I like as well. So give me the Warhawks in Class 8-man this week.
My lock for this week, I'm going with GTRA, which now that I've pulled their team up, I kind of wish I would have picked them in our logo draft. They've got a pretty solid logo there in the Titans. I want to talk about Casey Hugh here. He has been leading the way for this offense, 1,100 yards passing and 19 passing touchdowns, and on the ground, 571 yards and 12 touchdowns for him. So he has been really solid for GTRA. They fell last week to Bishop Garrigan, who yet again is showing to be one of the best, if not the best, in the class. But other than that, nothing but wins for them. They're 6-1. They're taking on North Iowa this week. They're fresh off of their second win of the season against Harris Lake Park. But I'm going to take the Titans to pick up their 7th win of the year. I like GTRA. I like them headed into the postseason. And I think they're going to win the last one of the regular season as well. And my dog for this week, I'm sorry, Edgewood Colesburg. This is the second time I've picked against you in the last few weeks. Didn't work out the last time. It's not personal. But I really like Key. Dalton Mutterman has had quite the interesting season for himself. Another guy who's leading the offense, passing and rushing. Over 1,700 passing yards and 28 passing touchdowns, as well as 12 touchdowns on the ground. Not only that, but on the defensive side of the ball, he has 58 tackles, which leads the team. 15.5 tackles for loss, as well as 5 interceptions.
2 pick sixes.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
So there you go. 2 pick six as well, right onto that. So Dalton Mutterman has been one of the most exciting players, one of the most fun players to watch in 8-man. You know, you get these guys in this class who put up video game numbers, and he's one of them. So give me Key high. It would be a big upset. The Vikings have yet to lose this year. They're 7-0. So, like I just said, would be a huge upset. Watch for Dalton Mutterman to put up another fantastic game. And that's all she wrote for Class 8-man for me.
That's all she wrote for all 7 classes. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Yeah, nothing on Rockfin right now. I'll see if I get new brackets or something up. I'd love to. Just been a crazy week. I've had Iowa State wrestle-offs and state golf, so I've been catching up. Don't worry, though. We will get caught up for Friday. Make sure to check us out on all socials. We've got final score updates. We're starting to get more and more into college football, so if you enjoy that type of stuff, drop a comment, drop a like. Let me know that you want more of it, and I will bring it to you. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. This is Locks and Dogs for Week 8, and we will catch you next week.